I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Beth O'Reilly. Beth is a floral artist living in Houston, Texas with her amazing husband and son. She is a certified Texas master florist and an accredited member of the American Institute of Floral Designers, which is one of the most prestigious floral design organizations in the world. She has 25 years of experience and has gained extensive knowledge in almost every aspect of the industry, from traveling abroad, handling product development, and design trends for a permanent botanical manufacturer in China, to working and owning a retail shop of her own for many years. Most recently, she honed her skills in the growing procurement and supply chain side while developing educational programs within the wholesale sector. Now more than ever, she believes that new growth and success in the industry lies in connections. Also, you may have recently seen her on HBO's Full Bloom, and she was actually the last woman standing, which means she was on the show for 7 out of the 8 episodes. Beth, welcome to the show.
Francesca, I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, for people listening, I just have to have a fangirl moment because I'll never forget I had launched my business in 2015 in the Middle East, came to Houston in 16, was actually bidding on one of the hotel accounts that I still have to this day, and went into the cooler and saw Beth and panicked because I idolized Beth. She was Mayesh's design star. I had watched all her YouTube channels when I was in the Middle East trying to figure out how to design. And there she was trying to help me land this account. And I literally just had like a panic because I was so excited to meet you in person. And you are actually one of the biggest reasons I've been so successful. So major shout out to you.
That means so much, Francesca. But I mean, really, my people are florists. You guys are my tribe. I want to see florists be successful. I've been any kind of experience that I can share with people that will help them on their journey. That's what it's all about. And that's kind of the new direction that I'm going in with my business since leaving the show and starting my own business, Flower the Moment with Beth O'Reilly. It really is about educating everyone about flowers and how flowers bring joy into our lives. And it even goes down to hotels. I mean, those are moments when people walk into a hotel where they're immediately met with a floral display or live plants, and it just sets the tone, right? So I was so honored to kind of help you through some of those beginning steps, and look where you are now. That's amazing.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, your wholesaler rep will make you or break you. And I still count my blessings every day that I had Beth in my corner. I mean, not only did you have experience running your shop previously, but you also had experience with hotels. So as and when I would run into issues, I mean, I still remember you educating me on what type of Dusty Miller would hold up the longest and what farm it came from. And I mean, I was so equipped.
But you know what? You were a sponge. You were a complete sponge. And that's what I really ask people to do. Like, you have to just dive in, learn all that you can. And you were so good at learning about sourcing and really understanding. You delve into it more so than many of the florists. I mean, your drive to be successful and learn what you needed to learn in order to be successful was just unparalleled. So I have to say that you were an extraordinary, and you weren't even a student, you're just a friend that I was wanting to make sure that you had all the tools you needed and you asked all the right questions. And it was amazing to see your growth. I'm really proud of you.
Thanks, Beth. Oh, I just have goosebumps. Okay, so now that we're done fangirling, I don't even know if that's possible to stop, but I had to bring you on the show because just that, you have helped me so much in my career. You have taught me so much that I know whoever's listening today, they're going to walk away either being more inspired, more confident to ask those questions, because honestly, it really is just about the questions that you ask. And no question is a stupid question. You are
Absolutely.
only as successful as the team behind you. And a lot of times the team needs a leader, and you have to be the leader by asking what it is that you actually need so your team can support you. What advice would you give someone who wants to become a florist? Maybe right now they're a hobby florist, or maybe they're in year 1 and 2 and they're just not seeing any growth or traction. What advice would you have for someone wanting to become a florist?
So you mentioned one thing, and that's networking and kind of building a tribe of people who you can bounce ideas off of. That's really important. And in this industry, there's a lot of other industries that really play off of each other. So if you're in the wedding industry, there's, bakers and stationers and photographers. So kind of building up networking in that realm will only help you in the future as you're building your business. But if we back up just a little bit, confidence for me is one of the biggest things that I teach new florists, because 99% of what we do is problem solving. And I'm sure you can attest to that. Nothing is ever perfect. You're always solving a problem when it comes to fresh flowers and perishable items and trying to source what you need and solving design problems. All of it is problem solving. So I really tell people to put your problem solving hat on and not get freaked out every time something doesn't go your way. Have that flexibility and know that you're constantly going to be solving problems, and do it with confidence. Like, hey, I did it this way this last time and it worked really well, or it didn't work that well and I want to try this. Those are all things that you kind of put in your tool bag, right? And you keep using them and building that tool bag up, whether it's a technique that you learn, or whether it's a way of selling or a process that you take with your clients. Those are all things that you kind of compile and build your own personal toolkit that goes along with your brand. So I do tell florists, learn the basics of floristry. That's a number one, right? Because you can't solve problems effectively unless you kind of know the basics. Keep adding those techniques to your toolkit, observe and learn. You can learn just as much by watching someone else make an arrangement than you actually making it yourself. And also, you know, when we talk about having this kind of toolkit, one of the things I like for florists to refer to and to learn right off the bat, and it's the principles and elements of design. The principles and elements of design are what everyone learns in Art 101, no matter what, if you're doing graphic design, sculpture, painting, any art form, you learn the principles and elements of design. And you need a refresher every now and then. So I basically have the principles and elements of design listed on a board on my wall, and I'm able to refer to them all the time. Even though I've been doing this for 25 years, I want to be refreshed, like reminded of its line, form, texture, color, all of these things, harmony, unity that we need to see in our work. And once you learn those and kind of memorize them, you're able to look at your own work and someone else's work and really be able to talk about it in an intelligent way. And then also be able to find what works, what doesn't work. And it's just super helpful. It's a foundation that you will keep using forever. So that's one of the first things. And you can Google principles and elements of design and get a refresher course that way. You don't necessarily need to pay somebody to teach you those. It can be self-taught, and self-teaching is something that's, really popular right now, and people can go a long way with it. And sometimes you just need a little extra boost, a little extra confidence. And, that's kind of where I've come in with my business, is helping people kind of get over these next levels and level up whatever it is in their business that they are struggling with, or they want to make sure they're doing correctly. So I enjoy all of that. That's one of the things that my business is built on, is how, giving new florists or even old florists advice on their business as they are growing.
So I love that you touched on two key points. And one is confidence. And I completely agree with you. Like in the Hotel Florist Profit Method, it's literally, how can I teach you to be as confident as possible? Like I can teach you the design and I can teach you what to say and how to automate it, but ultimately it's confidence. And that's in any career really, but especially as a florist, because you're selling something that isn't tangible. Like I'm not selling you this cup and it's gray and it's by Corksicle.
Exactly.
And, I'm selling you a concept that you physically can't see until probably you've paid for it in full. So it's so important to be confident. And even if it's just like certain tools in your tool belt, like what questions to ask, what design principles do you need to know? What about the color wheel? What are complementary colors? Are you designing in a monochromatic way? So when you want to become a florist, just remember it is super simple. It is literally, what tools do you have in your tool belt? And I also want to touch on your problem solving. So I'm very fortunate. My number one strength is problem solving. I see every problem as a great learning opportunity. And I know a lot of people get discouraged when they come across problems because they think they have failed. And when they have failed, that means they're not good enough and then they're not worthy enough. And it turns into this whole mindset issue. But if you know that you're going to come across problems. Like they're just part of the game. It's just like, you're going to wake up and you're going to breathe and you're probably gonna make a cup of coffee and you're going to get dressed. Like, it's just part of your day. There's going to be some problem. But if you realize that that is such an excellent learning opportunity that makes you the true expert that you desire to be in your industry, then problems coming up and problem solving is actually something to look forward to. That's
I thrive off of this. I thrive off of problem solving also. And my time in wholesale really taught me there's so many moving parts when it comes to moving flowers across continents, and getting them to you within days, and meeting the customer's expectation and quality and all those things. There's so many moving parts that those problem solving skills that I learned in wholesale have really served me well. And I totally agree with you.
So you're actually one of the few florists that I have had on the show that has experience with hotel accounts. And I remember when I first started, and I would have issues, because I think that's one of the fear of a lot of florists that want to do this. So like, what happens when they tell me to come and take it down? What happens when the flowers die? What happens when my contact leaves? Do you want to share a little bit of your journey with hotels and kind of like how you learned to handle them and what you walked away, the knowledge that you walked away with?
Sure. So I pretty much gained a lot of my education dealing with hotel accounts in Austin. And we were the Four Seasons Florist and also the Driscoll Hotel. So those are two of the big main hotels. At the time, there weren't some of the other ones that have popped up recently. But what I learned over trial and error and just, having those moments where you have frustration and have to problem solve is I really wanted to deal with one person who had say so in the flowers. And because the Four Seasons in Austin is a training hotel, we had general managers come and go. And so it was constantly trying to build a relationship with the newest general manager and really having them understand what it takes for me to be successful for them. And it's not necessarily a phone call every week telling me a few petals dropped off of the arrangement. Like, let's think bigger than that. And then let me also have that one contact. So I don't have concierge calling me and saying, I don't like the color of the lilies this week, because their opinion doesn't necessarily set the tone. It really is the general manager of the hotel. So that's just a little bit of insight from me. I mean, using flowers that last a long time is an absolute must. You don't want to be running up there and spending more money than you need to in the account. And I like to plan things out like a month in advance. So if I'm doing 4 installs for a hotel in 1 month, I literally would sit down, do a sketch, come up with a recipe, have a good plan of action in mind, but again, be flexible, right? Because maybe the forsythia that I wanted to use in that arrangement for spring isn't blooming or isn't available. So, kind of having those red flag items that I know, well, I might have to change that. And I just need to be open, and maybe I'm going to do curly willow instead of forsythia if I don't get the forsythia. So having a plan B in place and having flexibility and having that plan ahead of time. And then it just works like clockwork. I don't have to rethink things every week and, reach out to my rep every week. I can kind of like do it in batches, right? Which I know you're big at doing batches of things. And
I love batching.
So I guess I was doing batches before batches were a thing.
Yeah. Same. I remember, part of the reason why I love working with hotels is because it's literally like 1 day a week, and the rest of the time you can travel or you can do your events and weddings, whatever works with your schedule. And I remember if I wanted to take big trips, I would sit down and I would schedule like 6 weeks in advance, and I would put all my orders in, and it would take me maybe a day because you do have a lot of options to weigh. And I think trying to batch right now is probably going to be a little bit more difficult as we're navigating the new seas of post 2020 and all the weather related areas. But for example, like in-room dining, I know that every week I need to have like 6 dozen roses. And I know for the spa arrangement, I need XYZ. And this is for like 52 weeks. I'll put in that order with my wholesale rep, like, okay, I need this every single week. Not only do I get better pricing because I have a standing order, but that's like one part of the design that I don't even have to think about.
You don't have to think about.
Automatically going to be there.
And you are so good at that. You are so good at like realizing what kind of business you were going to be doing over the course of a year and using that in your conversations with your sales reps. I think it definitely, instead of just like piecemealing it, I'm ordering this once a week, it puts things in a different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to be creative, but if you know you can be creative in other areas of the hotel, you don't have to like be overly creative in like areas that you could easily delegate, which would free up more time and headspace. So I just love that you've had experience, especially with brands such as like Four Seasons, especially the Four Seasons Hotel being a training hotel. I can't imagine how frustrating it would be to start that relationship. And like you mentioned earlier, relationships are a huge component of the hospitality industry, just as in the floral industry. So you would start the relationship and then they would leave, and they would start a relationship and then they would leave. So that message just made you a phenomenal hotel florist, to say the least.
Well, thank you. We had fun, and I only have really good memories. We also did their Christmas decor install for both hotels, and it was intense and wonderful, and it's definitely something that I'm glad to have the experience for. There can be a lot of gratification in working with large chain hotels like that.
So I know that anyone listening to this podcast or is a student currently in the Hotel Florist Profit Method, they hear me give all the advice on how and why to work for hotels. What would your advice be for a florist considering wanting to work with hotels, and why would you give this advice?
Well, so if you play your cards right and you have a great relationship with the hotel, you can just organically become their preferred referral florist of choice. Now, you can also kind of negotiate that into a floral display if that's where you're wanting to go with it. If you're really kind of bending over backwards and creating a display that may not be as profitable for you, but the profit comes with all the wedding and event referrals that you might get from the hotel, that can be a big win. But yeah, that would be, one of the main things. Also your portfolio, having images, documenting. I tell florists all the time, you have to document your work. We're a visual industry. And for years, we kind of let someone else kind of show, the teleflor arrangements and all these things. You have to learn how to use your camera correctly. You need to be able to on the fly take and document your work. And even videos, we know how important those are in social media nowadays. So anything that you can capture as documentation for content to use later on will also just be a huge marketing leap for you if you use it properly. If somebody sees you week after week in a hotel putting up these amazing displays, and then they're all of a sudden looking for a florist for their corporate, it could be a spa. I mean, it doesn't have to be a hotel. They may be reaching out to you just by seeing what you're doing.
I agree. I mean, I became Tiffany & Co.'s Texas State florist, and I was able to be introduced to that relationship because of my relationship with one of the hotel accounts that I had. And so it does give you an anchor. I also think it adds a lot to your brand equity. That was really important to me, especially when I moved from the Middle East to Houston. Like, I started from scratch. I didn't know anybody. And I knew I had some really big players that I was up against. A lot of them were in weddings and events. So I focused on how could I build up brand equity the fastest way possible. And it was to work with really high-end brands. And so that was part of the reason that I went after the hotel work. And going back to your images, it's so important. I remember I didn't have time and I knew I wasn't capturing it the best way possible. So I actually found an up and coming photographer to be part of my team. And she would come in every single week and she would take photos. And to this day, I still use those high-res photos and marketing
So
materials
smart.
if I ever want to publish a book, whatever. And yes, it was an investment, but a lot of times I would give the first year, I would give all those images to the hotel as well. Like, hey, look, we already take these photos. You can use them for your social media and your platforms. And so it just helps nurture the relationship because you're actually showing up in more ways than just fulfilling a need. You're actually showing up in different ways on how you can service them, whether it's, making sure their clients are happy, their guests are having an incredible arrival experience. They're able to sell the hotel better on social media. They can increase their room nights due to the additional amenity of having fresh florals in the hotel. And it is a trickle effect. So
yeah, it is totally a trickle. And even if you think about people entering the hotel and using that floral display as like an Instagrammable moment, if it's already happening and there's kind of this trickle domino thing going on, it just makes it that much more exciting and that much more viable and engaging for both the florist and the hotel.
Yeah, even though it's brand standards, I like to think of it as an advertising cost because I talk about all the time, like, flowers not only transform space. I mean, imagine walking to a ballroom for a wedding and having no flowers, but they also make spaces Instagrammable. They're social media worthy. And that is something that is starting to be valued. And you can almost put a price point on that. Now we have influencer marketing and everything like that. So I only see the opportunity in the floral hospitality design world just increasing as we move forward. on that note, where do you see the floral industry headed?
So I see lots of different things happening. So when you look at breeders and growers, there's a big connection happening between the florist and the breeder grower that wasn't necessarily there before. I think a lot of times they, let the wholesaler or the distributor or the broker kind of do the work for them and sell what they grew. But now we see a lot more communication happening. We see, just going back to like influencing and all of that, they're actually reaching out to influencers and wanting to get their product out in front of florists more, and really just educating florists too on what they grow, what's new, all of those kind of things. There's a whole world that happens in the grower breeder area that I find really fascinating, which might be a whole nother topic for another for another podcast. But so there's a lot happening in that realm. Florists are understanding where their flowers are coming from. We have the slow flower movement and the American grown movement, which I totally support and love. I also know how important, jobs are to all of the people that work in this industry in other parts of the world. So for me, yes, when you can buy locally, it's great for everyone, but there's also people who are working really hard all over the world that our industry supports as well. So I'm an advocate for both. I see installations becoming more and more important, whether or not they're fresh installations, and a hotel arrangement really is an installation, right?
Yeah.
Now we have like another term for it instead of just a pretty lobby arrangement. But I see installations coming on the forefront. People want to connect with nature, even all of this social distancing and kind of independence that we've had being in our own little cubbies while we've been through COVID. People want to get out and experience things, and businesses want to be inviting. And so I've had clients that want to do even permanent or dried installations in their businesses just to evoke that sense of joy when people come in and seeing being connected more to nature. So I see a lot more of that. And then, of course, we have the whole sustainability being a high priority in our industry right now. Yes. And then just like on a current events is the flower market in general, right? At the moment, it's the talk of everyone's talking about how hard product is to get, the prices increasing. And that really is the after effects of COVID and the cycling of planting when there's no people in the fields tending to the crops, there's nothing new being planted. Possibly farms were afraid to plant too much because they didn't want to dump like they did last year at this time. Yeah. So you're seeing the effects of that cycle hit now where there's limited amount of product. But what is good about that is people want flowers in their life. Like we've gone through COVID, we've experienced this craziness. Our industry was brought to its knees, but ultimately people want flowers in their life. And for flowers to be in high demand right now, I think is wonderful. It just means we have to be a little bit smarter in selling what we're selling. We also have to be flexible on what's available. And be creative. I mean, we're artists. We should be able to be creative with what's available. I know it's a little bit scary for a lot of retail florists. Retail, again, has that's another change in the industry. They have had a renaissance period. So typically studio florists or wedding and event florists were really on the rise the last few years. And then with COVID, what we have seen is the retail florists really being needed for birthday arrangements, pick-me-ups, all of these things when we can't see each other in person, but we want to send a sentiment that really only a flower can say. I mean, words can't really convey all of these emotions. So a lot of retail florists are having a renaissance, and I love seeing that. And I also love seeing studio florists popping up. So we do see a lot of new businesses of studio florists popping up. Studio floristry typically was looked at as, like kitchen witches was the dirty term that was used 10 years ago. Wow. But that's because our industry just didn't understand. To open up a home studio or a studio-based floristry has great clout now. And I thank Holly Chappell for that, because she was a stay-at-home mom, but she also worked full-time, and she worked out of her studio in her home, and she built an amazing business. And it's just proof that there is professionalism in studio floristry. You can start a studio floristry with, a little investment. It doesn't take a huge investment to start. And a lot of my students are people who are now inspired. And I find it interesting because a lot of them have been inspired because of COVID and going through what we've gone through, where they want to create beauty in their life and they want to work in an industry that does allow them to create those moments and just share and spread joy and beauty. Now, we all know that there's a lot involved on the back end. It's not all glamorous, and they'll have to learn that too. But I just think it's really wonderful to see so many people wanting to get into this industry also.
Definitely. And I think in summary, the industry is growing. There's room for everyone. There is literally a seat at the table for whatever you want to specialize in. I know I have a student in another program who really wants to go into sympathy arrangements. And I personally think if I didn't go the hospitality route, I would have gone into sympathy, because I think there's so much value. That industry is underserved. It's completely different than retail, but most retail florists are
totally agree.
Or event florists. So this is just in summary that there's growth in this industry, that there is room for everyone. And like wherever your gut is calling you, this is the perfect time. Like you said, there's no clout anymore about having a home studio or specializing and niching down into one segment of the floral industry. So I love that someone such as yourself that literally has had a bird eye view from owning her own studio to freelancing, to education, to wholesaler. Like you have a full 360 view and understanding of the floral market. So I think that is so key. Tell me, what new and exciting projects are you working on now? Like where's Beth post 2020?
Okay. So after the show Full Bloom, which obviously was an amazing experience, I didn't get to touch on it very much, but to be one of the top 10 florists in the United States that was chosen to be on this first ever really well done and produced, like they spared no expense. It was a beautiful show. We all the cast members really kind of fell in love with each other. And we of course are in love with flowers. So I think that came across on the screen. So after that experience is what really led me to want to kind of navigate my own business and be there in the floral industry in a different way. So I'm super grateful for that. And along with that has come an opportunity to do a huge installation for the San Diego Museum of Art, which is coming up in June. It's June 17th through the 20th. It looks a little different this year. It's their Art Alive. It's one of their biggest fundraisers that they do. It looks a little different because of COVID. It used to be that like people could just come in through the rotunda and all view the installation all at once, but there's timed schedules. If anybody's in the San Diego area and interested in going to that, if this airs before June, you can get your tickets on the San Diego Museum of Art. There's a whole write-up on what we're doing for the rotunda. And one of the things I'm so excited about for doing this installation is I have a slew of volunteers that, as soon as they found out I was doing this, they're like, I want to help, I want to be a part of. We haven't had most of our symposiums and conventions because of COVID. And my floral community really wants to get out and be a part of something big. And
I know, I'm like, where do I sign up? I want to go.
You could come. You could totally come. I've literally not turned anyone down because I feel like it's important for florists and for like I said, my people, my tribe. If I don't know you and you're a florist, believe me, you're part of the floral family. All you got to do is send me a DM and we're besties. But typically, in my old design self, I would have been very micromanaging and, I only want a certain amount of people. And this didn't feel like what was needed for this. I want everyone to come and have a good time. And we're going to make something lighthearted and fun. And it's going to be beautiful. And it's going to be on the display for the public. And I'm excited about that. I'm doing a lot of creative direction for large installations for some of the local big event companies here in Houston. Very excited about that. Love working with big budgets when we have a big budget and create something larger than life. I'm all about that. So you guys could check my Instagram for some of those things coming up. May is going to be a huge month for that. There's definitely weddings and events happening. I'm happy to see these big events coming back. And I'm also doing some work with a farm in Ecuador. We're working on a special project. So I just took a trip to Ecuador and that was amazing. It was actually before all of this weather and everything has affected the crop. So I didn't see anything firsthand that was like a red flag or anything. But I mean, when you think about all the moving parts coming together, it makes sense, right? That we're having a few issues with flowers at the moment. But then I also just finished up a big gathered tulip event with Sarah Campbell of Intrigued. She actually, she got some funding from the European Union, some breeders, some tulip breeders and growers. And she was able to produce this first ever virtual tulip gathering festival. She had over 20,000 people come in and view. You could still actually do it. The big launch of it was last weekend. And basically she brought together like 5 designers. We all had a story around tulips that was near and dear to our heart. And we created an installation, and you can see the behind the scenes and all of that. If anybody is interested in watching that, there is a link in my link tree on my Instagram, which is beth.o'reilly.aifd. And you can go there and log in and register and watch the whole gathered virtual tulip event. Even though our big launch was last weekend, you can still watch it.
That's so cool. Sarah's such an innovator. Like I love that there's still been some really amazing pillars in our floral industry that have just thought outside the box. And like you said, just bring joy and flowers in whatever way possible, given the current circumstances. And I was actually talking to Ryan with Curate, the founder of Curate, and he mentioned this quote that just hasn't left me. And it's, creativity comes from constraint. And it couldn't be more true than what we're currently facing. So I love that. That's so exciting.
Yeah. And, just to be candid, like Sarah and I talked a lot when COVID was coming down. It was a year ago about this time. And really, she was really digging deep. And how can we, still support and be a part and keep things going? And I think what she's come up with is really quite brilliant. I was super happy to be a part of it. And I'm also really happy to be a part of Team Flower. I'm going to be an educator for their September. They've done
you and I both.
Awesome. Okay, so they're doing their virtual conference, and I will be educating, and people are going to get some fun tips on just some basic techniques that you can do with like everyday floral mechanics and floral hard goods. So I'm excited about that. And so you're doing something for the September?
Yeah. Well, I'm focusing, I can't remember what the topic was, but I'm sure it's something about hotel flowers.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm in good company.
Yeah, it'll be super fun. And then tell me, I know you're offering some educational classes and one-on-ones, mentorship programs. What does that look like, and how can people work with you?
So basically it can be as easy as sending me a DM. I do have my packages on my website, which can kind of give you an overview of pricing and like what all is involved, but really it's a one-on-one conversation. It takes a discovery call. So if you reach out to me and you say, hey, I'm just opening a retail shop and I wonder what you might have to offer, or I'm just opening up a new business. It can be a multitude of scenarios. You could be a shop owner or be in the industry for like 25 years and you just want to level up. So send me a DM. You can send me an email. People reach me all different kinds of ways, but basically then I like to set up a conversation. We chat for about 30 minutes. We see kind of if this is going to be a good fit for you and what direction you might want to go. But basically the mentorship packages that I do have been the most popular. It's one-on-one intensive, and I can only take so many students at one time. I do have other things that I do. You can see I work still in like large wedding and events for the luxury industry. So it's not just the education, but that's what's near and dear to my heart is the education. So I only take a few students at one time because it is intensive one-on-one. Like I'm working through the problems or the issues that you need to solve. And I love just building that relationship with each one of my students. Like you guys become family to me, basically, just kind of like you, Francesca.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we already had like our fangirl moment at the beginning, so I'm sure people can understand. Like when you work with Beth, she's such just a vessel of information, and will really tell you how it is, what her experience has been, and what has proven to work and what hasn't worked, which I found was really, really valuable. I want to thank you so much for coming on and just talking shop with me. But I have one fun question that I want to ask, and this is one of my favorites. What is the most useless talent that you have?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so for those of you listening, you won't be able to see this, but Francesca, I'm going to show you.
Oh gosh, I'm ready. Oh, wow.
I can touch my tongue. I can touch my nose with my tongue. And that is totally, when I saw this question was one that you might ask me, I was like, what more of a useless talent? That I can't think of anything more useless than being able to touch your nose.
How
with
did
your
you
tongue.
discover you could touch your nose with your tongue?
I don't know. I just have
moment.
a really long tongue. So I don't know, but it's been something that I knew I could do since childhood. I don't know when or how I realized that.
I love it. I love it. Beth, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you? I know you mentioned it, a website. What are your details?
Sure. So my website is bethoreilly.net. You can email me at beth@bethoreilly.net. You can DM me over on Instagram. That's beth.o'reilly.aifd. Yeah, and I'm also on Facebook. So if you're my friend on Facebook, I seem to be over on Instagram a little bit more these days, but I can't forget about Facebook.
I know. I'm guilty of that as well. We'll drop all these details in the show notes. Beth, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show and talking with us.
Thank you, Francesca.